Hey everybody, me and Joe Boo are up early in the morning. I got to film this early in the morning before the sun comes through that window back there and kind of ruins the lighting. So it's hard to film things at my desk. So we're doing it early in the morning. And usually when I buy a motorcycle or if I'm looking for a motorcycle or anything like that, you guys don't hear about it until after I've done it and bought one. But this time I figured I'd do it a little bit different. I'll tell you what the things I'm kind of looking at and looking for, and we'll talk about one in particular it's an intriguing bike, and I haven't really talked about it much, and I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. And I have no experience with these bikes at all. I did get a comment from somebody who said they owned one, but they didn't really elaborate on it. So I could be mistaken on some of the things, my thought process. So in the comment section, you guys give your thoughts as to whether my thinking is correct or incorrect, whatever. And that is the Janus Halcyon 250 motorcycle. I've got my computer here and I've got my iPad over here, so you'll see me looking at different screens. I've got some notes and I'll put up screenshots, as we go. And like I said, I'm looking for something kind of a small displacement, lightweight, kind of bimble type bike, to run gravel on, run around town on. I want to be able to take it moto camping. I want to be able to travel on it if I want to. So things like, the Super Cubs and Groms and things like that are kind of, not quite enough for what I'm looking for, but something like an Interceptor is too much, if that makes any sense. I want to be between there. And I really want single cylinder, air cooled, and carbureted if possible. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at the Janus. And these get a bad rap right out of the gate, and I think that's unwarranted. A lot of times I've seen a lot of videos where people just poo-poo on them, and I think they're incorrect in what they're doing. And so I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit. And we'll go over the pricing and things like that, and I'll talk about what I think are the real negatives of this bike. Because it's hard. It's going to be hard. If I buy one, it's going to be hard for me to do it because of the negatives on the bike. Because I don't think they are minor. I think they're a major issue here. For me, my intent, what I intend to use the bike for, I think these issues might remove it from the list. So you guys listen to what I say. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. And here we go. Now these Janus Halcyon 250s, let's just get it right out of the gate. These are not inexpensive bikes for what you're getting. These things started about 68. Right now they're on sale for $6,300. So it's going to be kind of confusing because I'm looking at sale price and regular prices. Every now and then they'll have some kind of sale going on, and right now at the time of this video, they've got a sale going on, so all of the prices are actually like 10% lower than what they normally are. If we scroll through here, the base, like I said, the base bike, they've got kind of a convoluted ordering system because they're supposed to be bespoke. You can start with the base bike and they'll build it how you want, and you get to select a bunch of options and things like that. And they've got two tiers. They start with what they call an origin model, a Halcyon 250 Origin, and then the Halcyon 250, as if they were separate bikes, but they're actually the same bike, just different, optioned out a little bit different. And I think that's a mistake because I think that kind of confuses everything. They should just have one. Just start with what they're calling the Origin. Start with that as the base bike and build up from there. Don't go through different levels of bike because there's $1,000 difference between these two bikes if you buy them bone stock. And I'm trying to think of what you get here between the two versions, and it looks like you get a better warranty. You get an additional 3 years on your warranty if you buy the Halcyon 250, where you get a 1-year warranty if you buy the Origin. Also, the Origin does not come with pinstriping on the fenders, doesn't have the logo on the airbox, and that's about it. Now your colors and things like that also have different prices. You get two options for base color with the Origin, which is cream and black, and with the regular Halcyon you get like 12 different color options for the initial price. So if you want to get one of those additional colors, it looks like it's an additional $360 if you buy the Origin and you want the additional color. So, like I said, it's kind of convoluted the way they do it. They should just have the Origin and just call that the Halcyon 250, and then just add all the options from there. If you want the additional warranty, pay for it because they offer that as an option. Warranty add-on. They want $600 extra if you want that additional 3-year warranty. So just make that one bike and then add all of the options. Should be how they do it, in my opinion. So it's kind of hard to actually price one out the way I want because of that. So I have to take prices from the other bike and add it to the Origin because they'll let you do that apparently, but it's going to cost you. Everything is at a cost here. So I'm looking at the base bike is currently $6,300, but off sale it's like $6,800, $6,900. Okay, so I need to have a rear rack on it. Obviously, that's an additional $225. Let's go back to the paint color for a second. There is an option to have the frame painted to color match your tank and fenders, which is a cool option. All right, and actually for the color I would like it in, which is the matte olive drab, I think that would be a great looking bike. For me, just that's how I would like it to look. But that's like an additional $1,500 to have that done, and it's like that is ridiculous to have to charge $1,000 to have a frame painted to color match. I mean, if they're starting from scratch, they got to paint the damn thing anyway. Charging an extra $1,000 is like off the table. I mean, it's like ridiculous. If I see somebody with that option on their bike on the street, I'm like, there's somebody with more money than sense. The only way that works is if they're really not building them from scratch when you call. They've probably got a bunch of frames and frame parts pre-staged and painted black, is my guess, is what they're doing. And they'll start pulling parts once you place your order. And in order to get it color matched, they have to bead blast all those pieces again and return them to raw metal and then powder coat them the color you want. So I'm assuming you're paying for that time and effort to strip the paint that they've already put on it is the issue, not just the paint. So if I wanted it with a black frame in olive drab, that's an additional $560, I believe is what I said it was. At that cost, I mean, you're better off just buying the black one, putting some sand, rubbing some sandpaper on it once you get the bike. Take the fenders and tank and airbox off and headlight bucket, rub some sandpaper on it and rattle can it olive drab and save yourself a buttload of money. So at that cost, it's just kind of ridiculous. So if I spec one out the way I want, if I use the base color and rattle can it, it'll be $65.75 for the bike. That's at the sale price. Add $600 for the regular price. If I want one, if I had to select their paint jobs and tank logo and everything done the way I would like, I'll put a picture up here. I would leave the pinstripes off. I would not put those on at all. They have what they call a deluxe tank logo. I would go with that because I think that looks better than just the script Janus logo. And that's an additional $315 on top of the additional $360 for the paint color. So that brings us up to $7,250. Yeah, it's $675 for that, for the paint. So that's $7,250. So that's what it would cost for me to get the bike the way I wanted it. And that's minus a second mirror and the headlight visor. And I could buy those elsewhere. The mirrors I probably wouldn't worry too much about. I just have to get the base and then install whatever mirrors I wanted on it. The knobby tire option is actually free on the Halcyon. I don't know if they would charge you more or less for if you ordered it with the Origin or not. It's like I said, that two-tiered option list is kind of convoluted. They don't need to do that. They could actually do it better. So yeah, we're looking at $7,200 or 78, 79 if I got, if I didn't buy it on sale. Now, we start running into problems if we didn't already. Because the engine in this bike is a point of contention for a lot of people because it's Chinese made. It's a Chinese clone of a Honda engine from the early to mid 70s. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay. Because this engine was designed to withstand, the abuse that it's going to get in third world countries. They never made this bike or this engine and put it in bikes coming to America and places like that. Because we got the CB 125, and this is based on the CG 125. And the CG engine versus the CB engine the difference is one's kind of the bulletproof tank engine that's not real efficient and powerful, where the CG or the CB is more efficient, more powerful, more high performance, but it requires more maintenance. So this engine was made to be a low maintenance, just workhorse engine. And over time, in Honda, I don't know if they ever actually made this engine and produced it for themselves. They designed this and had satellite companies, in China, Indonesia, Brazil, around the world make this engine for their bikes that they sold in those markets. So I don't know if Honda ever actually produced this engine on any kind of scale from Japan. It's always been made in third world countries by satellite manufacturers. And over years they kind of Honda abandoned their bikes that used this engine. So they all went away, but the engine stayed in production with those satellite companies, kind of like how Royal Enfield stayed in production in India even after Royal Enfield went out of business. And so it's probably one of the most mass-produced engines ever made. And it's an overhead valve push rod single-cylinder engine, and they've added a counterbalancer and upped the displacement to 229 cc's from 125. They call it a 250, but it's really 230. Now, this thing puts out 11 horsepower to the rear wheel, to the ground. So you're talking power levels between, like a Super Cub and a Grom, something like that, and a TW200. So more than the mini motos, less than the TW200. So you're in that range as far as power goes. So this thing on a 55 mile an hour road will not hold the speed limit if there's an incline. It's not going to do it. It's less than a classic 350. Although the power to weight ratio is actually almost the same as the classic 350, because this thing only weighs 265 pounds. That's about 150 pounds less than a classic 350. So you've got a much lighter bike putting out less power, but once the rubber meets the road, the power to weight ratio is about the same. Now, one of the founders of Janus, there was two guys. The company was started by two guys. One guy is still with the company. The other one, I believe he left the company and started his own business kind of on the side. And so they work kind of in tandem with each other. And his business is more performance oriented. You want to upgrade your engine and do performance work, anything like that, then there's this other place you can have that done, and that's called Moto Cult. And if you look on their website, they offer what they call a Stage 4 upgrade kit. And this isn't a racing kit. This is just to really open the engine up. It does give you a big bore. It brings it up to 250, from 230. You're replacing the carburetor, upgraded clutch springs, cams, things like that. And that's about $1,500. And they'll install it for $500. So you're talking $2,000 if you have it installed. So you can buy a bike from Janus, have this guy, run up the street, pick your bike up for you, and take it back to his shop, do the work for an additional $2,000. So that brings us up to what, $9,250 for this bike. But once you do that Stage 4 kit, This thing starts putting out more power than the 411 Himalayan by one. It's got one more horsepower than the Himalayan 411 off the dyno. Let's put it that way, not at the crank. With a much lower weight, you're talking 265 pounds. So your power to weight ratio is actually pretty good. And this bike starts looking good once you really do that. And then that brings me to like the fatal downside to this bike. And that is that fuel tank only, it looks great. Don't get me wrong. Fuel tank looks great. And just real quickly on the overall price of this stuff. This is expensive, like I said, but I recognize the craftsmanship and the quality of componentry that they're putting on this thing, and it's made in Indiana. So you're paying American workers for their time, effort, and craftsmanship. I have no problem with the price that they're asking for this bike. Because a lot of people will just come out and say $9,000 for a bike with a Chinese motor. Screw that. The motor is actually probably one of the cheapest pieces on this bike. I'm sure if Briggs and Stratton could make them a good engine in America for a decent price, they'd go with that, but they can't do it. So yeah, you're spending less money on that engine, but it's actually pretty robust little engine. So where were we? Oh yeah, the fuel tank on this thing. Like I said, I understand that it's a good looking tank, hand formed. I mean, it looks nice, matches the bike great, no problem there. Problem is that only holds 2 gallons of fuel. And since we're running this CG250 engine with a carburetor, so you've got a carbureted, inefficient engine built for robust longevity, okay, not fuel efficiency and not for horsepower. That's not what this engine's made for. That means this bike's only going to get 50 to 60 miles a gallon. Compared with that 2-gallon gas tank, now you're talking 100 to 120 miles worth of fuel range. And if you're running wide open throttle trying to keep up with traffic, it's going to be less than that. You're going to be down in the 40s. You know, you probably only get about 80 miles worth of fuel out of that tank. That's where my problem lies. Because any time I go anywhere, I would be filling up with fuel. It's not like, you know, even my Continental GT, which isn't the greatest. You know, I can go do lots of things and not buy fuel every time I, you know, leave the driveway. For this thing, I'm probably going to be doing it. So, $9,000, not great fuel range. That's the big one to me, is the fuel consumption and capacity. You know, and I've got to be carrying some kind of extra backup fuel bottle on top of that. The bike looks amazing. I think the quality is there. I'm not worried about that engine. I'm more worried about, like I said, the fuel economy and some of the astronomical prices on it. Because a lot of people compare this to the classic 350, and I think that's a mistake. They should compare this to the 650s because of the price category it's in. Because, I mean, you could buy, for $9,000, you can go buy a Super Meteor, or a Shotgun, or a Continental GT, or an Interceptor. And you can buy a Moto Guzzi at that price. You know, so you got to kind of start thinking about, you know, is this money wisely spent? And the answer is possibly, because if you take care of the dang thing, this should be a bike that could run forever, just because of the simplicity. You don't have electronic crap, you know, forcing other headaches down the road. So yeah, long term, I think this is actually a pretty darn good bike. But is it worth that initial investment you're gonna have to make to get one of these out of their dealership and into your garage? That's the issue I have right now with it. Is it's the initial cost is very expensive. I think it might pay for itself down the road. You know, for the right owner, because a lot of people, you see these on the secondhand market a lot with really low miles on them. So to me, that either means somebody bought the wrong bike and they realized it pretty quickly and they're trying to unload it, or it was just a piece of garage jewelry that somebody bought and they need the space and they're just trying to get rid of it because they don't really ride much. Because most of these seem to be purchased by, you know, more the hipster type that's going to ride it, you know, every now and then, or just take little short trips on it, you know, run a bimble around town and things like that. There's nobody on YouTube that's actually putting one of these things through the ringer, you know, on a daily basis, using it as everyday transportation and dealing with that low fuel fuel range and things, and really putting one to the test. Nobody's actually doing that. I wouldn't mind doing that. Janus would really have to give me a discount, you know, work with me on the price if I was to do that. But that's just one of my options. I wanted to kind of make a video. This is going on 20 minutes now, me rambling about this little bike. Just leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Tell me if you think I'm missing something here or if I'm on the right track. Like I said, it's expensive, very little power. You got to do some engine work on it though to get it to breathe properly, because it's strangled really bad to meet emissions laws. I understand they have things they have to work around, and that's why it's that way. So you got to do some engine work to really open it up. But I just don't know if I can deal with that fuel economy and range. You know, that's my big issue at that price level. Because I mean, at that price level, I could buy a /5 Series BMW and restore it. You know, so that's kind of where I'm at. So let me know what you think in the comment section below, and hopefully this was somewhat entertaining. Listening to me ramble and Joe Boo throwing in his comments. Take care, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.